Hi everyone, welcome to Needful Things Again. Today on Needful Things Again, we're going to be using this yellow yarn to make a pumpkin. A very simple pumpkin that anyone can make. And very easy to make a larger one or a smaller one. And what we're going to do, I'm using a 4-weight yarn. And I'm using a Susan Bates E or a 4 or a 3.5 millimeter. And I'm using a 3.5 millimeter because I want my stitches to be tighter together so that you don't see the stuffing inside the pumpkin. So we're going to start with a slip stitch. We're going to chain 32, 1, and 32. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to put my finger on that last one there. I'm going to chain 2 more, 1, 2, then I'm going to yarn over because we're going to be doing this whole pumpkin pattern with half double crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3. We're going to go into the back bump of the 4th chain, pull up your loop and go through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. I have a video for that if you don't know how to do that. So what we're doing here is, you see, normally you're working in your front parts of your chain here, but just turn it over and you'll see the back bumps. Those are the ones we're pulling the stitches in, so we get this nice edge here and it's easier to sew together. Yarn over, go on the next back bump, pull up your stitch. Yarn over, go on the next back bump, pull up your loop. You got 3 on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, half double crochet. So we're going to do this all the way down the chain in the back bumps. It's a little more difficult than just popping it through the chain, but it's what you need to do to make this pattern prettier. If you just get too frustrated with that and you're not used to doing that, you can go ahead and just go through the whole chain. But once you get used to this, it's quite easy. And so we'll do that all the way down the chain. And you'll have 32 stitches when you get to the end, and every row will be 32 stitches. The whole entire pattern, like I said, is half double crochet. And if you want to make a larger pumpkin, you'll just make a longer chain and do more stitches, and your pumpkin will get taller and fatter. And you'll get a fatter pumpkin if you do more rows, because if you make your pumpkin longer this way, you're going to want to make more rows to make your pumpkin. So this particular pattern is it's not a tiny pumpkin, but it's a decent size, and it's 32 stitches. And we'll do 42 rows of half double crochets. That's 42 rows of half double crochets to get our little piece of fabric that we need to make our pumpkin. So I'm going to continue down here and I'll catch up with you when we get to the end of this. Okay, so I finished my row of half double crochets, 32 stitches. Now at the end we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn your work, and that chain 2 is always going to count as the first half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over. We've already got the first one, so we're going to the second stitch. There's the first one, that counts as the first stitch. The second stitch is right beside it, of course. Pull up your loop, do your half double crochet. Now in this, every row from now on out, we're going to be working in the back loops only. Okay, in the back loops only. So you see we have the stitch here, and if you turn it up, you have 2 bars there, one in the front, one in the back. We're going to go into the back stitch. and pull our loop there. Okay? And that's what we're going to do all the way across the work. We're going to work half double crochets into the back loops only. In a pattern, you might see that as BLO, back loops only. And that way we get the nice little ridge there like this. And then when you get to the end of this row, you'll chain 2, turn. The chain 2 will count as your first stitch again when you're on this side. And you'll do the same thing all in the back loops. And this is all you're going to do for the body of the pumpkin. Very simple, half double crochets in the back loops only. I like to give my work a little tug because I do not like blocking. Everyone knows I hate blocking. I don't like killing fabric and wetting fabric. I just don't enjoy that. So I find if I work well when I'm working, I don't have to. I don't let my pieces get all gnarled up and pulled in. I pay very close attention to my tension of my yarn. Now we're in the last stitch, so we have the 2 chains. We'll just go into the back loop of the top chain like that, fill up our loop. That's our last stitch, number 32. Chain 2, turn your work. Now we're on the back, this side here. So we're going to yarn over. Like I said, the 2 count as your first stitch, your half double crochet, and we're going to that second stitch in the back loop. And continue down the row. And we're going to do this for 42 rows. And that will be the body of the pumpkin. 42 rows, okay? So, by the magic of television, of course, I have my 42 rows done. And here's what it looks like. As you can see, we've got 42 rows here. I've almost finished that one. So that's what it'll look like. Okay. So I'm just going to finish up this row. This is my 42nd row in my back loops. And don't miss that chain 2 on the end. Sometimes you don't notice it, but it's there and it is a stitch. And that finishes up that. And now I want my little V stitches to be up and down vertically for me when I put this together, because we're going to sew it together. Okay. You can do it with your darning needle, or you can just do it with your crochet hook. I will take my darning hook out because I will need my needle eventually. Okay. So I'm just going to put this together whichever way you want your V's to go. I think I'll do it this way. My V's are this way to me, up and down, this way, vertical. So I'm just going to go to the other side and find that end stitch. And pull it through like that. Then I'm going to go in the back stitch. I'm going in these back stitches here as well. And then over here I'll be going in the stitch closest to you. And just doing a slip stitch like that. You can do a single crochet if you want to, but I'm not going to. And you'll just go in the front bar of that stitch over there on that side. Pull up a loop. And that's what we're going to do. Just to connect our stitches together. We'll do a back loop and then the front loop on this other side. If you want to, like I said, you could sew this together with your darning needle. If you're not comfortable doing it this way. And all we're doing is just seaming it up there so that we can have our body of our pumpkin. Okay, so I'm going in the back loop on this side, front loop on the other piece, you can see. That was our beginning row, so they might be a little bit tighter on that other side. We're just doing a little slip stitch there, very simple. Okay, so I'm going to complete this off camera because I don't want to bore you to tears. Okay, so I'm going to finish that end. Okay, I've come to the end of my slip stitches connecting together. I've got one more to go, or two more I think to go, because there's the one on the end. Don't forget the one that's the chain stitches, it's the very end. And there we are. And we've connected our pumpkin together right here with the seam. Okay. So now what we're going to do is close this bottom part. Very simple. Now I'm going to take a length of string. If you have too much, that's okay. You can waste. You certainly won't need this much, but I'm just going to cut a long, nice piece. And I'm going to just pull it through my last stitch and tighten it up. Okay, so now you're going to need your darning needle. And we're going to take it and thread our yarn through. And we're going to sew this together here, and this will be either the top or the bottom, whichever. So we're just going to go in, just like if you've ever basted a hem or anything like that, and you know, right in the top of the stitches, I'm just going to go through, just like so. And all we're going to do here, what we're doing is pull on those stitches like that, and this is what's going to shape our pumpkin. Okay. So we're just going to go around the piece. Now we're back to that side. And all we're going to do is just pull it closed. Almost like you would do a hat. Really. Because this is going to be the bottom of your pumpkin. So you get it, you know, nice and pumpkin-like at the bottom. Which, like I said, looks kind of like a hat. And then I'm just going to sew in and secure my yarn around the bottom. And when you feel like you got it secure as you want it to be, you just tie off your yarn like so. I would do that in a couple of different places. Then you just put your needle in and pull this yarn inside like so. And that will be the bottom of your pumpkin. Okay, like that, you made a little cap. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this yarn off for now. Put it inside the pumpkin. And now we're going to stuff the pumpkin with polyfill, like so. And you know, you just stuff it in sort of free form, and give it sort of a pumpkin looking roundish shape. Not all pumpkins are perfectly round, as you know. And it takes a lot more than you think it might, that's for sure. Just sort of evenly distribute the pumpkin stuffing. So you've got what feels like, you know, a nice round shape. And now we're going to take another piece of yarn. Make sure it's long enough because we're going to sew in the top just like we did the bottom. I'm going to start where I finished the piece at. And I'm just going to pull my thread in, tie a little knot, and just bring it together. Same as we did the bottom. I like to pull it a little bit so I can shape it as I go, and then hold right where you finish, so you can hold this in here, and just keep going around. Oh, got a knot there. That's weird. I'm a little more careful with the top than I am the bottom because you'll see that a little more, I guess. So I try to make it really even as possible. That knot's making me crazy. I would normally stop and take it out, but I don't want to stop right now. Eventually it will come out. But you can see what we're doing. We're just closing it up and continuing the shape of the pumpkin. Or basically a round ball at this point. Now this one I'm not going to worry about closing it up so tight because we're going to put the little stem on top of it. I mean, I'm going to pull it tight, but not like I did the bottom. Like about like this. That's all you need to do on the top. And then just secure your string at the top. Because our stem will be brown and we will sew that on with the brown color. I just want to make sure this one doesn't ever pop out. So we're good and tight there. Okay. Now you see we have our nice little round pumpkin bowl. Just like that. Okay. There's the bottom. Here's the top. Okay. So I'm going to cut this yarn. And just sew it down inside and cut it. Okay, so there's our pumpkin all done up. Very simple, 42 rows, half double crochets, 32 stitches. And now we're going to do some longer pieces because they're going to be the pieces that go from top to bottom. So they'll be about this long, which is, I'm cutting these pieces about 22 inches. Of course, that's way too much than you need, but you don't want to not have enough for this part. So we're going to make 8 of these pieces of string about 22 inches. That's 2, that's 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 pieces of yarn there. Okay. So we're going to thread them on. Oops, I didn't cut that one. Okay, so we have about 8 pieces. Well, we do have 8 pieces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And so what we're going to do is take our needle, put 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 pieces of yarn, just like this. and our needle all at the same time. And we're just going to push this in here and push this through to the bottom. Hold on a second, I need my longer one. So we're going to pull it through with our needle like this, to the top to the bottom. And you sort of squeeze it through to get it in there. Because this is the part that is going to give us that little indentation in our pumpkin. I place it like in between the 2 rows of stitches here, like right there. And then just pull it really tight. And see what it does? Just pull it in. However indented you want your pumpkin to be. Tighten a knot. Just ease it up a little bit. And put that there for now. And see, it brings your pumpkin in, gives it that little indentation. So we'll take the next one. If you want to do this before you close the top, you can do that as well. I just do it this way. I just push that needle in and push it through. Somewhere so you can grab a hold of it. And just pull the yarn through. Like that. And that will be our next one. Here. And we have 8 of them, so make sure you space them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Get them spaced out good, so your pumpkin's not retarded looking. Oh, that's not a good word. Sorry I said that. Pull it tight. As tight as you want it to be. That one's not very tight. Oh, that one broke. That must have been a crappy piece of yarn. So you get the gist of it. You just pull them through and then you tie them tight like that. And you can, I would just cut the yarn down a little bit and then just put them inside there. Just stuff them down in the hole once you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do all 8 of these. It's boring for you to watch, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, and once you have all your 8 strings tied on the sides, you have your little indentions for your pumpkin. You can do yours tighter than I did if you want to, so they disappear a little more. And then there's your pumpkin, basically. However big you want to make yours. Now I'm going to show you how to do the little stem on the top. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take the same hook that we used, the 3.5 millimeter. I got some brown yarn here. So we're going to chain 1. Well, make a slip stitch. Then we're going to do chains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. Gonna sit right in there. I'm going to do 10. Okay. Then we're going to chain 1 and go into that first chain, and we're going to do single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, and then stretch it out. Chain 1 and turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in that last stitch. Chain 1 and turn. Same thing, we're going to do 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to decrease, so we have our loop there, so we're going to go into the first stitch, pull up a loop, go into the second stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all those loops. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to decrease on this end. Pull up a loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all, that leaves 8 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to decrease again. Go into the first stitch, go into the second stitch, pull up a loop from both, yarn over, pull through all 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease, 6, chain 1 and turn. Decrease on the first 2 stitches. 1, well, I didn't do that, I said it, but I didn't do it. So we're going to pull up a loop from the second stitch, yarn over, pull through those 3, that's 1, whoops, 2, 3, 4, 'Decrease, 4, chain 1, then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4, chain 1 and turn, decrease, 1, pull up a loop in the first 2, chain over, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. Okay, we have 2 loops left. We're going to decrease there, 1, pull up a loop there, pull it through, we have 2 stitches, yarn over, chain 1, turn, 1 stitch, 2 stitch. This is what our piece looks like. Chain 1, turn. We're going to decrease these last 2 stitches into 1. That's that. Now here we are with our piece like this, almost like a little triangle, but not really. We're going to fold it like this, and we're just going to go through the first row onto the other side and slip stitch. Each row we're going to do that, go to the next row, go to the other side. We're just closing the little triangle. That's all we're doing here, making a stem. It's not rocket science. Get a little creative. And basically we're just pulling those 2 sides together of our triangle that we just made and closing them up. Here's the last row. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut our brown yarn to leave us enough to sew it on comfortably, because we'll be sewing this on. Okay, now we're going to just pull that through that last stitch to tighten it up there. And now we've made this little thing here, which is our stem. And it has a little crook in it, like so. If you want to, you can turn it inside out, which is not the easiest thing to do, so you might not want to do that. And we will sew this right on top of here, just like this. Like I said, if you want to, you can turn it inside out. I did it on one, but boy, was it difficult. I'll try it for you. You're going to have to stick something up in there to get that little point, because you want the little point. Whoops, sorry. I can't get that little nudgy thing up there. Okay. So here we are with our little thingamajig stem. Now we're going to yarn up this needle, our darning needle. Now if you want to, for a little effect, which I'm going to do, is you can take a tiny little bit of stuffing and stuff it in your little stem there. It's big enough to do that. And then we're going to go in here, put it down, and just sew it on with a darning needle. I'm going to stick that little brown piece up in there. We don't want that sticking out. And you'll just hit the stitches in that bottom row and stitch it to the top of your pumpkin. And you can take your time, you're not in a race. If you want to, like I said earlier in another pattern I did like this, you can make leaves if you want to, put some leaves around it. I've done that on some. And then you'll just secure your yarn. And I'm just going to pull it through, cut it off. And if you want to, like I said, you can make some curly Q vines. There's your pumpkin with a little crooked stem. Isn't that cute? And there's your finished pumpkin sitting on the console.